Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank CBI for inviting me to come and speak to you today, and thank you to everybody who's spoken and all of the panelists so far today for stimulating the conversation from the work that I do. This is definitely important conversations that businesses need to be having. By way of introduction, my name is Brendan Saunders. I'm a principal security consultant at NCC Group. We're a cybersecurity consultancy. Principally, the work that I do is around penetration testing, and that work basically makes me a tame computer hacker is probably the best way that I can describe what I do. Going to give you a brief presentation here. I've got about 15 minutes, I think, to talk to you. I'm going to talk a bit about public Wi-Fi. It's one example, and it's one really good, very nice visual example of how some of the risks that we're seeing now can be realized. It's one of many, many risks, but it's a good one to show you. So I'm going to do a bit of a demo on that, and we'll give you a bit of a view on how easy some of these things are. But of course, going to talk a little bit about the solutions to those problems as well. So I'm a principal security consultant. I'm also the practice lead for our maritime cybersecurity team at NCC Group. I'm accredited as a CREST penetration tester. So CREST, the Council of Registered Ethical Security Testers, the body who represent, control and manage all tame computer hackers in the UK. So what I want to talk to you a little bit today, as the title suggested, is the dangers and the risks from public Wi-Fi. Now, this is, I will say, just one of the many risks that we see happening quite regularly. But one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you about this today is that it very much indicates the shift that we have seen over the last 5 years or so of attackers in their strategies. So if you go back 5 and 10 years ago, the kind of attacks that people were seeing regularly were external-based attacks. They were hitting your front doors, they were banging through your web applications, through your firewalls, your perimeter. In the last 5 to 10 years, technology has improved, implementation has improved. People have gotten better at this now. So a lot of people, not everybody, and nothing is perfect, but a lot of businesses now we are seeing are getting far better at securing their external perimeter, securing their external applications and firewalls. And so attackers have started to realize that the soft target is always the person. Now, we've talked a little bit about phishing, particularly spear phishing, which is the other big attack. So everybody thinks they know what a phishing email looks like. You get them from people pretending to be your bank every day, and that's still a big business industry because people click on those links every single day. But actually, spear phishing, those targeted attacks, those are the ones that are getting through. And that's an example of attackers becoming smarter, of attackers hitting the person rather than hitting the technology, because although the technology's gotten better, the people haven't necessarily. The other big risk is from mobile working. So now we've seen the massive rise of mobile working, people using tablets, people using mobile phones, and people still using laptops on the go everywhere. And so one of the big risks that we've started to see is those endpoints being less secure than the internal hosts in many ways, and that those are presenting the risk. So I'm going to talk you through a little bit about how one of those risks might get realized. So public Wi-Fi, everybody knows it, everybody's seen it. I'm sure pretty much everybody here today is connected to the Wi-Fi here. Pretty much everybody? Yeah, lots of nods going on. And that one, you look at it and you think, well, it's probably safe, isn't it? How do you know you connected to the right one? How do you know you didn't connect to my laptop? Silence. It's very easy whenever you travel. You go to coffee shops, you go to airports, you sit on trains, and you sit and you connect to free Wi-Fi. You look through, you really want to get that report out, or you really want to watch that YouTube video, you really want to catch up on iPlayer, you will connect to an open free Wi-Fi. But understanding the risks involved in doing so will help you to keep yourself safe. So what is the risk? Where does this fault occur? Well, the fault occurs in that as part of the virtue of the way that Wi-Fi was designed, and you can blame the IEEE 802 committee who met all the way back in 1992 and set these standards up, and we've been trying to recover ever since. But the fact that a Wi-Fi that doesn't require a password to connect is inherently unencrypted. And therein lies the biggest challenge in the use of public Wi-Fi. If you're connecting to a network and it does not ask you for a password on connection, I'm not talking about a pop-up that comes up and says, please enter your email address and a password like a lot of them do. If purely to connect to that network, it does not require you, your operating system or your phone doesn't pop up and say, you need a password, then your connection is unencrypted, which means that anybody else connected to that network, or even anybody not connected to that network, but simply in your vicinity, they can see what you are sending. So process that and consider, what are you sending over that connection that anybody who's around you might be able to see, or the person controlling that Wi-Fi, what might they be able to see? And that technological fault is something a lot of people don't realize when they connect to public Wi-Fi. So what are the ways in which people can attack using these vectors? Well, the key three vectors that we see are traffic sniffing, and that can be done by somebody else connected to that network, or it could be done by somebody simply in a vicinity using a Wi-Fi adapter to connect and sniff through the traffic going to various different networks. If your network is open and you're connecting to an insecure network, people can see your traffic. Non-isolation attacks, this is other people connected to your same network. Now, a lot of public networks don't use isolation. Quite a few of them do. So in a lot of networks, if you connect, then you are separated, you are isolated off from everybody else who is connected, so that at a purely network level, rather than a Wi-Fi electromagnetic signals level, but on a purely networking type level, you can't simply look at the files on the people's computers next to you. But a lot of Wi-Fi networks, particularly in smaller locations, the one with less sophisticated setups, so the ones who've just gone out and bought a BT or a Virgin router and plugged it in to offer you free Wi-Fi at your local cafe, those sort of implementations, a lot of the time they won't have segregated you from the other people on that network. And then we have the evil twin attack, and the evil twin attack is the one that I'm going to demonstrate. So I came here, when I was asked to do this, they said, we'd like you to do a live hacking demo. And my immediate response was no. Because hacking is unfortunately not like you see on CSI. I can't simply do 10 keystrokes and tell you I've hacked into the FBI. It doesn't work like that. It is a long and fairly boring process in many cases. And the other danger with live demos is that when you're hacking, you're trying to persuade a system to do something it's not supposed to do. And it pretty much always does something it's not supposed to do. It's just rarely the thing you've actually expected it to do. So I've learned in the past that we don't do live hacking demos. What I did do was get together with some of my colleagues, and we've put together a little video. Now, some background on this video. In the process of making this video, despite having tried to make it fairly clear that people should not connect to the fake free Wi-Fi that I'd created, while sat creating this, 3 people actually connected to the fake Wi-Fi that we were using in the video, and I was actually able to get credentials off one of them purely accidentally, so we had to go and have a little conversation with that person. So in simply the amount of time it took to make this video, somebody exposed themselves to risk. So what I'm going to do now is show you this video, and this just gives you a little bit of an insight into one of the attacks. So the first thing an attacker is going to do is find somewhere that's got open Wi-Fi, find users who are connecting to it who might not realise they're about to be attacked. Let's find a place. Here we are. Let's have a look and see, is there any open, unsecure Wi-Fi that people might be connecting to? Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I've got a list now of open Wi-Fis in the area. What I'm going to do now is called an evil twin attack. An evil twin attack is very simple. I create a duplicate of the Wi-Fi using the same name, hence evil twin, and then persuade people to connect to my Wi-Fi instead of the real one. The first thing I'm going to do is create my fake Wi-Fi. I'm going to use a tool to do this, very simple, publicly available tool. I set up my internet connection, and I set it up with high power and with the same name as the existing Wi-Fi. I set it at higher power so that people connect to me rather than the real one. Now that I've set that up, it's transmitting and users can start connecting to me. But what if they're already connected to the existing network? Well, let's throw them off. I find the existing network, I've already got the address here, and then I send a disconnect. And that causes all of the current users accessing that Wi-Fi to disconnect, and hopefully they'll reconnect to me. Let's have a look. You can see here, users have already started to connect to my evil twin Wi-Fi. Now that I've got that, what can I do? Well, the first thing I can do is just start looking at their traffic. I'm going to use a tool called Wireshark to look at all of the traffic passing from my users through my Wi-Fi and out onto the internet. A lot of the traffic's encrypted, so I can't really get very much from that, but a lot of it isn't. and a lot of people send personal information over unencrypted connections. So let's start saving that for later. What else can I do? Well, there are a few other attacks that I can use now that users are connected to my laptop. What I'm going to use first is a tool called Responder. Responder takes advantage of the fact that lots of machines send out requests for websites, servers, files, all the time. A lot of those requests aren't answered. In this case, my machine is going to answer those requests and try and persuade the user's machines to send me their usernames and passwords. Let's give it a go. So, I start to access Responder, and I tell it to respond to all of the types of requests that it can access. Some of these are trying to find websites, some are trying to find files. Now that I've set that up, my users are starting to make requests, and I'm starting to respond to them. When I do, I ask them to send me their username and password. If their machine's not configured properly, it will do just that. The passwords are sent as hashes, so they don't look like real passwords. But what I can do is I can crack those using various tools that are available quite freely on the internet. In just a few seconds, I've taken one of these passwords and I've already cracked it. So within just a few minutes, users who are out there sat drinking their lattes are now sending me their usernames and their passwords, and I can use those to steal their personal information. That looked far too easy, didn't it? That was actually a little bit of work. The tool that we use is publicly available. You can get hold of most of those tools. Anybody with an internet connection and a little bit of ingenuity can quite happily perform that kind of attack. And every week, people are creating new options and new tools to make those far more effective. But that's just one very quick example of some of the attack vectors that you can use. And that was far too easy for me to do. One of the things that I noted on there was actually that a lot of the traffic that people send is encrypted. So if you access websites, you'll often see the lock symbol in the top left, or you'll see the green bar appear in your browser. That means that your traffic is being sent in an encrypted fashion, or at least we hope it's being sent in a properly encrypted fashion. So a lot of websites are going to be pretty safe for you to use in that regard, but a lot of them aren't. And a lot of people send information they wouldn't necessarily think is sensitive information, but is still very valuable. So particularly those of you connecting to websites and signing up for things, signing up your information, be aware of what that site is and whether the information you're sending is encrypted and whether other people could access it. So what are our solutions? Well, the first solution is to ideally try and minimize the use of open public Wi-Fi. The best answer to that is to use something like 3G. So if you have a 3G phone, if you're going to be doing any form of sensitive data transmission, then try and prioritize using your own 3G connections because those are far more secure than open Wi-Fi. Otherwise, use trusted secure networks. So there are quite a few that are actually better to use, and a lot of the modern telco providers particularly are starting to use certificate-based authentication. So if you go on the tube now, actually those connections are far more secure because they're using certificate-based connections. A lot of them haven't got that far yet. Normally these are the ones that you have to download a certificate in order to connect to them, so more of the business services than the consumer ones. If you want to get that extra layer of security, and the best option, realistically, is to use a VPN, so a virtual private network. A lot of you will use them, and a lot of people have this vision of VPNs being only things you use if you want to connect back to your business. And a lot of people don't appreciate that actually, simply by invoking your VPN every time you use a public Wi-Fi, you're adding a massive degree of extra protection to yourself, because that means that all of the traffic that's going from your laptop will be encrypted and go through your corporate systems. So one of the things to try and instill in your users particularly is this idea that if you are traveling with your business laptop, even if you don't need to connect back to your corporate network, purely by visiting internet sites, actually you should be trying to use your VPN when possible because it adds that extra layer of protection. And from an IT perspective, start enforcing that. And we're starting to see good endpoint practice now is to enforce the use that as soon as your user connects to the internet, they cannot access anything except their corporate VPN and route all of their traffic through. In addition, use secure protocols, so avoid exchanging any information over sites that are not HTTPS secured. Now, a lot of people think HTTPS or secure web browsing is the panacea of all things. It isn't perfect. It doesn't ensure 100% safety, but it's a really good basic hygiene check that you should always be using to make sure that the websites you're accessing and sending any information over are always using that security. And from a business point of view, make sure that you're configuring your business and your personal computers to avoid sending out the kind of broadcast messages that can be responded to. So one of the very obvious ones of those is a system called WPAD. If you connect to your corporate network, it automatically finds the proxy server that you use to connect to the internet. The kind of messages that it's sent out, it's an old standard, it's an old protocol, and those can easily be responded to and persuade you to send traffic back. So there are lots of good practice guides. You can find quite a few of them on our website that will demonstrate how to stop sending out those noisy, chatty broadcast messages from your systems that then an attacker who's connected to you can make use of. So I'm aware that I need to wrap up, so I'm running out of time here. There we go, conclusion. Public Wi-Fi, great way to get online on the move. Don't stop using them out of fear. Just start thinking about when you're connecting, are you doing securely? Do you need to use the Wi-Fi at that point? Can you use 3G if it's small amounts of data? What Wi-Fi networks are you connecting to? Remember, every network that you connect to can see what you are sending, so make sure you're aware of what you're sending. VPN is the best way to try and get past those security challenges. If you don't have those, then at least be very aware of the sites you're connecting to and what data you're sending or receiving. And from a business point of view, start being aware that your human soft targets are the ones that your attackers are going after now. So start making sure that your users who are using mobile devices of any description, be they laptops, phones, or tablets, are not presenting that threat to your business and ruining all of the hard work that you're doing in securing your perimeters. I think I might have a couple of minutes for questions.